Hello, it's me again. For those of you who are watching me for the first time, my name is Johanna and I'm the Key Executive Officer of a boutique real estate agency. I handle both rental and sales of residential and commercial properties, and I love telling stories from real life so that you can benefit from my experience. Today's sharing involves pets. As an animal lover myself, I try to help tenants and buyers find pet-friendly homes. But as you can see from the title of this article, it's really important as a landlord representative to ensure that landlords' properties are also not destroyed, or that landlords suffer financial losses because of errant tenant behavior. So a very quick summary of what happened here. This happened in China. A tenant disappeared after defaulting on rent, leaving the apartment filled with rotting trash and an abandoned starving dog. The property agent discovered the horrific scene, which apparently was in sharp contrast with the tenant's sophisticated public image. And now the dog is recovering, thankfully, and awaiting adoption, while the landlord considers legal action for damages. Now, in Singapore, a professional real estate agent would implement several safeguards to prevent such a situation from occurring. So as agents, we do a few levels of checks, basic identification, anti-money laundering, and that includes a bankruptcy check. So very often we do look at tenants for their employment details, and certain landlords may even ask for character references. Okay? We also advise landlords to check that their monthly rent has been received. Now, this monthly rent is paid in advance. If the tenant has not paid, we try to remind the tenant to do so within the week so that the security deposit remains as a buffer for the landlord in case of tenant's default and, tenants leaving the flat or property with damages. Number 3, when you first hand over the flat or property to the tenants, I would strongly advise to be there when arranging for repairs, because this can help you to build a relationship with the tenants. You need that relationship because you want to make sure that these are tenants who are capable of looking after the property, and also you are, helping them to keep safe. What do I mean? Many tenants are maybe not familiar with rules and regulations of a building or development, so they may get fined or they may get their items confiscated, and be the first person to let them know, hey, the resident handbook very often would have these bylaws that would advise tenants or occupants of the flat to behave in a certain way so that they are not penalized. Tip number 4, I would also advise landlords to collect even 2 months rent as security deposit, because especially if they have pets. Why? I'm quite sure that you will agree with me on this point as a pet owner, because we are all aware that not all pet owners are responsible pet owners, right? So the difference between a responsible pet owner and one who is not that responsible can be reflected by how much thought they put into finding the right home for their pets as well as for themselves. I think that responsible pet owners tend to stay longer than 1 year, and they also make sure that even no matter how busy they are, that their pets have time as well as place to properly relieve themselves. And this is something that you would want, because if the pets are not given the space or the time to relieve themselves, then they will do so within the property. I actually have a very clear pet clause that ensures that pets are properly looked after when living in the properties that I manage. Last but not least, please know the laws in Singapore. Try and work out a solution if you know that your tenant is facing problems. This can happen to anyone. You can let them know upfront that when you're introducing the pet clause in the tenancy agreement, that there are consequences to abandoning a pet in Singapore. It is a criminal offense and it is punishable by law with imprisonment of up to 12 months and a fine of up to 10K. Okay, so in the course of my work, I have also met people who really had to seek alternative solutions, like this person who eventually gave up his 2 poodles because he was being transferred to the US, and he tried applying for his helper to move to the US with him, and unfortunately that didn't work out. And so with all the flying around that he had to do, he decided to rehome them, and I managed to find homes for them. So, I think that knowing the laws, making sure that you have a pet clause that informs the tenant of what they need to do to be a responsible pet owner, making sure that you have a security deposit as a buffer, as well as checking on your rent, and also, making sure that it is the right kind of tenant for your property is very, very important. But most important, be a humane person and work with your tenants if you know that they have problems. Okay? All right. That's all from me. Love, love from Joe.